Please be seated. We ask you, first of all, to silence your phones so that we can have our service uninterrupted. Thank you. As I look out onto this room and onto this filled house, I think I'm not the only one who is in awe of the love, the obvious love that Karen enjoyed during her lifetime from all of you, and that she continues to enjoy, even though she's only here with us in spirit now, and will continue to enjoy for years to come as we all remember her for the wonderful, amazing person that she was. The family asked me to officiate the funeral, and I thank the rabbi for giving me the space to do so, since I knew Karen so well. And together we'll pay a wonderful tribute to Karen today. I think that we are all in pain. But, of course, the family is coping with the deepest pain, deepest loss. And it's our task to be here for them. So thank you for coming together in such numbers to give such great support in a time when it's so needed. And as we all cope with pain, we look towards our psalms that are given to us by our tradition for some words of solace. There are many psalms that ask God to give us wisdom to be able to support each other as we believe that God supports us. So I'd like to ask the rabbi to begin, to come forward to read a psalm for us.
Psalm 15 is one of the traditional psalms for a levaya, for a funeral. And it speaks of what it would take to imagine being in God's presence, of love, of righteousness, of decency, and of good deeds. And as I read the psalm in Hebrew and then in English, we might contemplate the ways in which we remember and understand Karen having lived by these high ideals as we think of her in the best possible light. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai mi yagur b'ohelecha, mi yishkom b'har kodshecha, holech tamim ufoel tzedek, v'dover emet bilevavo, lo ragal al leshono, lo asal re'ehu ra'a, v'cherpa lo nasa al krovo. Nivze be'enav nim'as, ve'et yirei Adonai yichabed, nishba lahara v'lo yamir, kaspo lo natan b'neshech, v'shochad al naki lo lakach, ose'ele lo yimot le'olam. Do we deserve to enter God's sanctuary? Can we merit a place in the presence of God? Live with integrity, and do what is right. Speak the truth without deceit. Have no slander upon your tongue. Do no evil to others. Do not mistreat your neighbor. Spurn a contemptible person, but honor those who revere Adonai. Never retract a promise once made, though it may bring you harm. Lend no money at unfair rates. Accept no bribe against the innocent. Make these deeds your own, then shall you stand firm forever.
The psalms that our rabbis found appropriate for such times as funerals and unveilings, when we are confronted with the finality of life, are the ones that teach us how to live a good life, how to be good people, what it means to have purpose, and what it means to leave behind a good name. Such are the words of Psalm 1. אשרי האיש אשר לא הלך בעצת רשעים ובדרך חטאים לא עמד, ובמושב ליצים לא ישב, כי אם בתורת אדוני חפצו ובתורתו יהגה יומם ולילה. והיה כעץ שתול על פלגי מים אשר פריו ייתן בעתו ועליהו לא ייבול, וכל אשר יעשה יצליח. לא כן הרשעים כי אם כמוץ אשר תדפני רוח, על כן לא יקומו רשעים במשפט וחטאים בעדת צדיקים, כי יודע אדוני דרך צדיקים, v'derech reshaim toved. Happy is the one who has not followed the counsel of the wicked, nor stood in the path of sinners, nor sat in the company of the scornful. Rather, that one's delight is in the teachings of the Lord, meditating in God's teachings day and night, and will be like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in season, whose leaf will not wither, and whatever that one does prospers. Not so the wicked, who are like chaff that the wind drives away. Therefore the wicked shall not survive judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For the Lord loves the way of the righteous, and the way of the wicked is doomed. And one last psalm for the moment, Psalm 23, which is familiar to so many of us, with the words, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for God is with me. It is our attempt to ask God to provide us the sustenance and the support that we all need and that the family so deeply needs at this time. In Karen's honor, I'd like to sing it rather than recite it, so I knew she would enjoy that. מזמור לדוד, אדוני ראוי לו אחסר, בינו דשא ירביצני, על מי מנוחות ינעלני. נפשי ישובב, נפשי ישובב, ינחני במעגלי צדק, למען שמו, גם כי ילך בגצה למוות, לא ירא, כי אתה עמדי, שבטך ומשענתך, שבטך ומשענתך, המה ינחמוני, תערוך לפני שולחן, תערוך לפני שולחן, תערוך לפני שולחן, נגד צוררי, דשנת בשמן ראשי, דשנת בשמן ראשי, דשנת בשמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי ושבתי בבית אדוני ליורך ימים. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not lack. God causes me to lie down in lush pastures. God leads me beside tranquil waters. God restores my soul and guides me in righteous paths for God's name's sake. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your scepter and staff comfort me. You prepare a table before me in full view of my adversaries. You have anointed my head with oil, and my cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The eulogy is really a tribute, as the family indicated to me, a tribute to a wonderful woman. It's an attempt to pull together an entire life into just a few words. And that's not an easy task. And I'll deliver the first part of this tribute, and family will fill in the rest from their hearts. And hopefully during the Shiva period, as you visit the family, you'll have a chance to also add to this tribute as you reminisce about Karen. And together, we hope to paint a beautiful tapestry that was her life. Our beloved Karen will be remembered by all of us who knew her for her resilience in the face of some overwhelming odds. She wrestled with illness for 30 years, but you wouldn't know it unless you actually knew it, because she always had a smile on and cared more about your welfare than her own. You'd never hear her say, "Why me?" She just went about her life enjoying every moment, maybe more so than the rest of us do, because she had a feeling that her time was limited. We all look from the outside in and think, why couldn't she have another 20 or 30 years to enjoy her family and her many friends? But her life was filled to the brim with love and affection showered on her by her loving family and all of us who are here, her large circle of friends, and she was content. You all rallied around her all these years, which gave her a sense of normalcy, even though she was dealing with some serious stuff. She was a superwoman. She did more in the years she was given than many of us will do, even if we live into our 90s and beyond. Karen began her life in the Bronx and moved with her family to Searingtown as a child. She attended Herrick's Middle School and High School and eventually graduated from SUNY Buffalo. Her early career was with the real estate firm Time Equities, where she handled paralegal tasks. When Erica was born, Karen decided to go to work for her brother's computer consulting business because he let her bring Erica, and then eventually Mitchell, of course, to work with her. Eventually, she joined forces with Jim at his real estate management business, and she remained an integral part of that office for almost 20 years, helping to build it into a true family business. Jim and Karen enjoyed working together every day. But when Mitchell's daughter, Sydney, was born 15 months ago, Karen decided to retire, and she handed over her responsibilities to Mitchell. Karen raised 2 children while working full-time and still found time to volunteer. She volunteered at Hadassah, here at Temple Beth Shalom, Brownies and Girl Scouts, and as a member of the PTA at the Roslyn School District. All of these affiliations and volunteer endeavors resulted in you, a huge network of friends from many, many different circles. Karen truly loved each and every one of you, and she loved every moment she spent in your midst. She cherished each and every relationship. Karen loved the beach, and she spent many days there soaking up the sun. She was also quite a foodie. She loved going out to restaurants and would always ask the waiter or the waitress for their #1 recommendation, and she would order it just to try it. Her love of great food comes from her father, who, as I was told, would disappear for hours on a Sunday morning to go shopping at different stores just to get the freshest food possible, and then would come home and cook or grill that food for hours again to make the most amazing dinners for his family. Karen and Jim had a beautiful marriage. They were always there for each other through some very difficult times. Even with all of her health challenges, Karen never missed a family event and absolutely loved becoming a grandmother when Sydney was born 15 months ago to Mitchell and to Alex. She's also noted for having tended to her parents' every need as they became elderly and frail. She could always be counted on to go the extra mile. Jim and Karen moved to Roslyn in 1992, and Karen right away began to look for a synagogue. And while she favored Temple Judea, which is a Reformed synagogue, Jim wanted to join Temple Beth Shalom, largely because of the emphasis that the conservative movement put on teaching Hebrew skills to our children. Jim felt that was very important for Erica and Mitchell. Jim quipped to me that in 30 years of marriage, it's the only argument he ever won. But in the end, I know, and those of us who are TBSers, we all know, that Karen was very happy here. She found a home here. She volunteered extensively, which gave her a lot of satisfaction. And as already mentioned, she made lifelong friendships here that turned out to be the bedrock of support that she would eventually need and count on when she was coping with those significant health challenges. I see some of you in the room. I could name names, but that would be inappropriate, but you know who you are. And with your support, she fought valiantly to not let those challenges stop her from living her life to the fullest, enjoying every moment of joy with a passion and zest that we can only admire. To take a bit of perspective from our Bible, in the cycle of our weekly readings at synagogue, we will soon complete the 3rd book and begin the book of Numbers, which recounts our travels in the desert for 40 years. In a way, it's a mirror for each of our lives, which are filled with moments of great joy, such as our people felt at the foot of Mount Sinai, and also moments of great fear, such as our people felt at the shores of the Red Sea. It teaches us about resilience, born out of faith in a higher power that delivers us through those challenging times to our proverbial promised land at the far end of our journey. In the desert, no one felt this sway of the pendulum between pure joy and pure fear more than our leader Moses. He was the first to witness these emotions as he was the closest to God. And he did his best to move our people through the desert, where they were often, as King David put it, and as we read just a couple minutes ago, in the valley of the shadow of death. And yet, as we know the end of that story so well, Moses did not enter the promised land with the people that he led to it. Our rabbis taught us about this, that Ein alecha hamlacha ligmor, v'gam lo lehitbatel mimena. That each of us are here to take on the mantle of a task that was begun before we were even born and will be ended long after we are gone. And by doing so, we give meaning and purpose to our own lives, as short as they may be. Karen understood this lesson well. She began her life like all of us, pure as snow. But 30 years ago, she entered her desert with great fear. But with the help of her family and all of you, she walked through it with great joy in her heart and took on the tasks of life as a loving wife, a doting mother, a helpful worker, and a volunteer in the army of God with passion. And now, as her journey on earth ends, we do get a sense that she did indeed get a taste of the promised land through your immense love and support. And now it is our destiny, all of us who survive her as her soul returns to God, to pick up her mantle and help to see that her tasks come to fruition. Tehi nishmata tzrura b'tzurei chayim. May Karen's soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. And let us say Amen. And now, to give us a more personal perspective, I will call on Jim, Erica, and Mitchell to come forward and speak from their hearts.
I'm Erica, and I feel so lucky to be able to say that I am Karen's daughter. When I sat down to write this, I wanted to have a few memories or anecdotes about my mom that all tied nicely together into one theme and spoke to who she was as a person. But as I started jotting things down, I had a hard time organizing it cohesively. In my defense, my brain hasn't been working perfectly these past few days, so I'm just going to share some memories and hope that it will paint a picture of the type of person and mother my mom was. One of the things I think about most is how my mom always knew how to make us laugh. When we were little, she would sing a little song. It may have been from Sesame Street, but the only lyric she would sing is, "Nobody's perfect." And then she'd add her own line, "except for mommy." Doing anything to make us laugh and smile continued through my adulthood and extended to Sydney. Just a few months ago, she was dancing around Mitchell and Alex's living room, singing along to an Elmo toy, trying to make Sydney laugh. Laughter was only one of the ways she showed her love. My mom gave the best gifts. But the gifts themselves weren't even the point, it was the full experience. As we were about to open a gift, she'd say, "Okay, so," and then she'd explain why she picked out that exact thing for us. There was always a story or a reason or a detail she remembered, and then she'd say, "But if you don't like it, you can always return it," which I never did, and the few things that I wasn't really sure about have ended up being some of my favorite items. My mom was always thinking of others. If you didn't have somewhere to go for a holiday, you were coming to our house. "What's one or two more people?" she'd say. "No one should be alone on a holiday." And it didn't matter if it was a last-minute decision. She always cooked for double the number of people that were coming, and she'd still worry it wasn't enough. And that was a part of her DNA. Both her parents were amazing cooks who loved feeding people. But her love of food didn't end with making us home-cooked meals and cooking for the holidays. My mom loved to try new restaurants. She had a running list of spots, recommendations from friends or places she read about in Newsday. And when we went out, she would often check her list to see what new restaurant she could try. My mom had a habit of saying yes to everything that was asked of her. She was an active member of the PTA, the president of the Roslyn chapter of Hadassah, and she sat on the board of the synagogue. These organizations came with quite the workload, and she used to joke when I was a kid that she must have the word schmuck tattooed on her forehead because she just couldn't say no. But really, she said yes because she cared deeply about these organizations and what they stood for. And through them, she built an incredible village. So many of you here today were a part of that. She was so grateful for your friendship and love, especially in these last few months. So while I can't capture all of her in just a few stories, I hope I've shared a glimpse of the warmth, humor, generosity, and love that made her who she was. I will miss her more than I can say, but I carry her with me in how I love, how I care for others, and how I try and build community the way she did. Thank you.
I first want to start by thanking everyone for coming. Whether you were close with my mom or you're here to support me or my sister or my dad, I just want to tell you all how much it means to me. I want to begin by thanking a few people. My sister, I know how much you did over the last couple of months to help Mom. I also want to thank my mom's doctor who cared for her and supported her over the last 3 decades. And I want to thank my father. Nobody in the world liked to nag you and give you crap more than Mom. But I think even she would say what you did over the last year was so selfless and such an incredible example of how to be a spouse in sickness and in health. You were by her side at every step of the way, and I know how much it meant to her and to all of us. And I could speak for Erica when we say we love you so much. You might not know it by looking at her, but my mother was the strongest person I ever knew. She was small in stature, barely 5 feet tall, but her strength was something far greater than physical. She lived with illness for much of her life, quietly enduring pain and setbacks that would have overwhelmed many. But she never let it define her. She faced every challenge with grace, resilience, and unwavering spirit. I think everybody here knows what my mom dealt with over the last 15 months, but her battles with illnesses go way further back. In 1995, my mother was diagnosed with a rare liver disease. I was just 3 years old. The doctors told her she'd be lucky to see me graduate elementary school. But being the fighter she was there for my entire childhood, and she didn't miss a thing. Graduations for me and my sister, our bar and bat mitzvah, every sporting event she came to watch me sit on the bench. She was always there. Then in 2013, she was dealt another blow, a rare lung disease with a 5-year life expectancy. But that didn't stop her either. She made it to my college graduation, my sister's graduate school graduation. I remember she took me shopping for clothes for my first job. She met the woman that would eventually become my wife. And I remember on the morning of my wedding, my mother was the first person I saw. I needed something from her hotel room. I knocked on the door. She opened it, and she immediately started crying. I hugged her, and all she could say is how lucky we were, and that she never thought she'd be here for this day, and that it was so special. And somehow, through it all, she got to meet her first granddaughter. Because my mom was who she was up in the hospital room just minutes after Sydney was born. She got to see the first time I ever held her. I know what that moment meant for her, and it was something I'll never forget. And even though her time with Sydney was short, watching my mom become a grandmother was so, so special. In February, Sydney had just turned 1, and my mom had been battling cancer for about a year. At that point, it was really taking a toll on my mom, and she was struggling to do any activity. But when Sydney's first birthday party came around, she found a way. She showed up, she sat at the party, and stayed not just for the party, but for the whole day with her granddaughter. I know it wasn't easy for her, but she never let that stop when it came to family, especially Sydney. And that day meant so much to her, and it meant so much to all of us. The part that crushes me the most is knowing she won't get to play that role for Sydney the way I know she would have. I know she would have thrived as a grandmother, just like her mother did for me and my sister. Sydney made her so happy. Every night, Sydney would make sure to call Grandma, even if it was just for a minute, to see how she was feeling, and I know it lifted my mother's spirits. I'm devastated that Sydney won't remember you, Mom, but when the right day comes, I'll tell her everything. I'll tell her how incredible you were, and how much you loved her. All of these moments, they happened while my mom was constantly fighting for her life, fighting to spend one extra day with her family and friends, and I am so lucky. And it's not just these big moments I remember. I'm lucky just for the everyday relationship I had with my mom. Growing up, I struggled to even lie to her. I remember one night in high school, I threw a party. I thought I cleaned everything up, and I was certain my parents would never know. But shockingly, a bunch of drunk 17-year-olds did not do the best job cleaning up. And the next day, my mom asked me about it, and I thought about lying, but I couldn't even do it, so I just kind of guilt just giggled and said yes and promised I wouldn't do it again. And she wasn't even that mad, I don't think, and that was just our relationship. My mom had all these phrases that I heard her say to me a million times in my life. When I was younger and I would just get worked up about nothing, she would always say to me, "Mitch, you can't sweat the small stuff." When I was an immature teenager, my mom would always say to me, "Mitch, I'm gonna get you to grow up to be a man, even if I have to drag you kicking and screaming." And shortly after Sydney was born, she looked at me and said, "Told you I'd get you there." But the one phrase that sticks out with me the most that I heard a million times was, "You don't know how lucky we are." And when I was younger, I didn't fully grasp it, but as I got older, I realized how true it was. And even now, after going through the worst weeks of my life, watching her suffer through her final days, I still think about how lucky I am. Lucky to have a mom who was the foundation of our amazing family, a mom who fought so hard to set such a powerful example, a mom I was so proud to be close with every step of the way, so lucky to have you as my mother. But my mom wasn't just there for me and my sister. She was the bedrock of her entire family. She constantly hosted holiday dinners to make sure everyone had a place to go. She was incredibly generous with her time. She spent years involved with Hadassah, eventually becoming the president of the Roslyn chapter, and she traveled the world with my dad. And through all this, she somehow still managed to have the busiest social calendar of everyone I've ever known, as evident with everyone here today. And she was incredibly generous with others. I know many people sitting here today, or their kids either received an engagement gift or a gift for the birth of their child or their grandchild. And while I love my father, just know that gift 100% came from my mother. Mom, thank you for everything. Even though I'll never get over not being able to talk to you again or have a meal with you or laugh with you, I'll be okay. I'll be strong. And I hope I made you proud, because I'm so proud to have been your son. I am so lucky. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for attending the service today. This amount of people that are here is an incredible tribute to Karen. Before I start, I want to say a special thanks to a few people who were so incredibly helpful to Karen and me in the past year. I hope I don't leave anybody out, but I want to say thanks to Susan, to Penny, to Jane, Lisa, Beth, and Sarah. All of you have been incredible, and I can't begin to show my appreciation for all you did during the past year to help us. From cooking meals for Karen, taking her to and from doctor's appointments, rubbing her feet, or just coming over to the house to say hello and keep her company. You have been amazing friends. We will never forget what you've done for us. Celebrating the holidays was always so important to Karen. When we moved to Manhasset, Karen designed the layout of our house to enable to have lots of guests for the holidays. The past few years, Karen was not able to host all the holidays, so I want to throw out a special thanks to Ivy, my machatonim, for inviting us to celebrate many of the holidays the past few years at your home, and including Ira and his family. Karen was so appreciative that you did that. In 1984, I had been working at MGRE for 2 years, and our receptionist informed us that she needed to take an extended vacation during the summer. One of our bookkeepers, who turned out to be my future mother-in-law, told us that her daughter had recently graduated from college and did not have a job yet. That night, Gwen went home and told Karen about the temporary job opportunity. Having prior boyfriends whose last names were Gray and Silver, Gwen told Karen that there were 3 single men at MGRE, 2 of which had last names with colors. At dinner that night, Stan asked what the colors were, and Gwen told her green and gold. Stan told Karen, "Don't take the job because there's nobody named Platinum." Thankfully, Karen did not listen to her father. She came to work at MGRE that summer. 2 years later, we were engaged, and the following year, we were married. There's probably some guy out there named Platinum in his mid-60s now, still looking for a soulmate. Lucky for me, Karen chose gold. Many of you know about Karen's medical struggles the last year. What many of you may not know were her medical struggles the past 30 years. Karen decided to keep those medical issues fairly private. In 1995, she was diagnosed with a rare liver disease and was told that she would probably need a liver transplant in the next 7 to 10 years. In 2013, Karen was diagnosed with pulmonary hypertension. When we Googled pulmonary hypertension, we learned that there's usually about a 5-year life expectancy. Karen was fortunate to have 2 incredible doctors treat both of her conditions. I think David Bernstein is here today, and through David's care the past 30 years, Karen never needed that liver transplant and still had a fully functioning liver as of last week. And when Karen was diagnosed with pulmonary hypertension, we were referred to Roxana Salika. Roxana helped Karen navigate through the difficulties of pulmonary hypertension, and she was able to do everything she wanted, even though pulmonary hypertension was supposed to put significant limits on your daily activities. I really want to thank David and Roxana. You're both incredible doctors, and we appreciate everything you did for Karen. Everyone who knew Karen knew that she was an incredible wife, mother, grandmother, sister, and everything else. What most people do not know was how tough, strong, and resilient she was. With all of her medical challenges, she was not going to allow them to slow her down. She worked 5 days a week, volunteered at the schools, volunteered here at Temple Beth Shalom, was the president of the local chapter of Hadassah, and volunteered at the Hadassah Nassau County region. After she was diagnosed with pulmonary hypertension, she was adamant that she would not allow it to impact her dreams. She immediately told me that we were going to travel the world because she knew at some point she would not be able to travel any longer. We traveled to over 30 countries and many states in the United States with our traveling companions, Jill and Lewis, Mark and Amy, Herb and Susan, Richard and Lisa, and Izzy and Donna. We had so many great times and so many fantastic memories. One of the issues with pulmonary hypertension is that you struggle to walk up stairs or any incline. A great example of Karen's determination was when we visited Angkor Wat in Cambodia. She was able to climb the 500 very steep stairs, an amazing feat for someone with pulmonary hypertension. She was so proud to show a picture of her walking up the steps to Dr. Salika when we returned to New York. My job required me to spend many nights each week at work, But that was not necessarily a bad thing, because it left Karen to be the primary person to raise Erica and Mitchell. And she did she just raised two incredible kids, as you could see from their speeches. Erica and Mitchell, you made Mom proud every day to be your mother, except some of those idiotic escapades of Mitchell and his high school buddies. Now you're both young adults who are excelling in your careers. Both of your new jobs require you to reverse commute to Long Island, which enabled Mom to see you more often. The two of you are Mom's greatest legacy, which will continue for years to come. Karen told me over and over again how amazing parents Mitchell and Alex are. Sydney is a lucky girl to have Alex and Mitchell as parents. One of the all-time cruelties was 3 days before Karen and I became grandparents, she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. So we knew that the time she'd be able to spend with Sydney would be limited, but the past 15 months were amazing. Karen looked forward to those 6 o'clock FaceTimes with Sydney every night and all the time that they were able to spend together. Even though Karen was taken from us way too soon, we had 41 amazing years together. We never had one fight or argument. Well, that was because Karen was always right. You were my perfect wife. When Karen was originally diagnosed with PBC 30 years ago, her goal was to get to Mitchell and Erica's bar and bat mitzvah. Check. Then her goal was to attend their high school graduations. Check. Then to be at their college and grad school graduations. Check. To dance the hora to her kid's wedding. Check. To travel the world. Check. To become a grandmother. Check. And to attend Sydney's first birthday party. Check. We jammed 60 years of celebration and fun into 38 years of marriage. It was a hell of a run for somebody with all those challenges. It's been an honor. It's been an honor to be your husband and partner in crime since 1987. I wish we had many more years together, but it was a great run. I love you so much. May your memory be a blessing, and say hi to Gwen and Stan.
Thank you for allowing us to just gain a small glimpse into your life with Karen, your wife, and your mother. In Proverbs, we learn about a woman of valor. In Hebrew, we call it Eshet Chayil. I'd like to read to you just an excerpt of what a woman of valor really is and how it relates to Karen. Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor, who can find? Far beyond pearls is her worth. Her husband's heartfelt trust is in her, and he shall lack for nothing. She bestows good upon him and never harm all the days of her life. She spreads out her palm to the poor and extends her hands to the destitute. Her mouth is opened with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She oversees the ways of her household and partakes not of the bread of laziness. Her children arise and praise her. Her husband lauds her as well. Many daughters have accomplished well, but you have surpassed them all, they say. Grace is false, beauty is vain, but a woman in awe of the Lord, she should be praised. So give Karen the fruits of her hand, and let her deeds praise her in heaven. I ask you to rise at this time for the memorial prayer. אל מלא רחמים, שוכן במרומים, המצי מנוחה נכונה על כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מסיירים, את נשמת ויטל בת שמואל וגולדה, שהלכה לעולמה. בעבור שאנו מתפללים ביד הזכרת נשמתה, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתה. לכן בעל הרחמים יסתיריה בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בצור החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח ושלום על משכבה, ונאמר Amen. God, full of compassion, who dwells on high, grant proper repose on the sheltering wings of your presence, in the lofty levels of the holy and pure, who shine as the brightness of the firmament, unto the soul of Karen Klein Goldstick, Vittel Bat Shmuel Vigolda, who has gone to her world, and for whose memory we are all here to pray. May her repose be in paradise. May the Master of Compassion bring her under the cover of God's wings and bind her soul in the bond of life. May the Lord be her heritage, and may she repose on her resting place in peace. And let us say Amen. Before we move on to the burial, just a couple of announcements. The burial will be at Mount Hebron Cemetery in Kew Gardens, Queens. And Shiva will follow right after the burial at the Goldstick home in Manhasset. The family has asked that you visit them during the following hours: today from 7 to 9, tomorrow and Wednesday between 1 and 4, and again from 7 to 9. Thank you all for coming.